Good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you are watching this clip. I'm Erin McCormick, and I run the drama program at George Stevens Academy in Blue Hill, Maine. If you are watching this, hopefully you are tuning in to our production of A Doll's House by Henrik Ibsen, put together by my students in about 2 weeks' time, with none of them ever being in the same room. They haven't seen each other in person all together all year. It was a great passion of ours to try and get some theater going, and this year perhaps more than any other, as theater historically throughout all nations and all time has reminded us what it means to be human, and more importantly, what it means to be connected to one another. And this particular play highlights the themes of why one should follow one's heart and how all people have value, even sometimes when they don't realize it. It was greatly controversial in the 1800s when it came out. It still packs a punch, but we tried to approach this play not only from the feminist perspective, but showing how much great heart was in every one of the characters, and that it was a society that held them down, that caused any of their problems, not the human souls themselves. So we hope you enjoy. And our production is, of course, free for anyone who'd like to see it. But if you would like to support the work these kids are doing in keeping theater alive and trying to bring it to more and more people, please consider a small donation. Thank you so much for watching and for supporting our kids. Have a good evening.
Yes, he's in.
Is that my little lark twittering out there?
Yes, it is.
When did my squirrel come home?
Just now. Come in here, Torvald. See what I bought.
No, don't disturb me. Bought, did you say? All these things? Has my little spendthrift been wasting money again?
Yes, but Torvald, we can really let ourselves go a little. This is the first Christmas we haven't had to economize.
Still, we can't spend money recklessly.
Yes, Torvald, but we may be a wee bit reckless now, man. We just a wee little bit. You're going to have a big salary and earn lots and lots of money, and
yes, after the new year, but it will be a whole quarter before the salary is due.
you can borrow till then.
Nora, suppose now that I borrowed £50 today and you spent it all in Christmas week, then on New Year's Eve a slate fell on my head and killed me, and
Don't say such horrid things.
still, suppose it happened. What then?
If that were to happen, I don't suppose I should care whether I owed money or not.
Yes, but what about the people who lent it?
They would bother about them. I should not know who they were.
That is like a woman. But seriously, Nora, you know how I think about that. No debt, no borrowing. There can be no freedom about a home, and that depends on borrowing and debt. We two have kept bravely on the straight road so far. We will go on the same way for a short time longer, if there need be any struggle.
As you please, Torvald.
Come, my little skylark must not droop her wings. What is this, my little squirrel out of temper? Nora, do you know what I have here?
Money.
There you are. Don't you think I know what a lot is wanted for housekeeping at Christmas time?
Shillings. A pound. 2 pounds. Thank you, Torvald. Thank you. That will keep me going for a long time.
Indeed it must.
It will. But come here and let me show you what I bought. And it's all so cheap. Look, here's a new suit for Ivar, and a sword, and a trumpet for Bob, and a doll's bedstead and bed for Emmy. They're very plain, but she'll soon tear them into pieces anyway. And here are some new dress lengths and handkerchiefs for the maids, and really ought to have something better. I do save all I can.
That's very true. All you can, but you can't save a thing.
You haven't any idea what expenses we skylarks and squirrels have, Torvald.
You're an odd little soul, very like your father. You always find some new way of weeding money out of me, and as soon as you've got it, it seems to melt in your hands. You never know where it's gone, but still, one must take you as you are. It's in the blood. and I would not wish you to be any other way, my sweet little Skylark, but do you know, it strikes me that you're looking rather, shall I say, uneasy today.
Do I?
You do, really. Look straight at me now.
Well,
Hasn't Miss Sweet Tooth been breaking rules in town today?
no, I assure you, Torvald.
Not even a bite of a macaroon or two?
No, Torvald, I assure you, really, I haven't.
There, of course, I was only joking. Besides, you gave me your word. Keep your little Christmas secrets to yourself, my darling. They will all be revealed when the Christmas tree is lit, no doubt.
A lady to see you, ma'am. A stranger.
Ask her to come in.
The doctor came at the same time, sir.
Did he go straight to my room?
Yes, sir.
How do you do, Nora?
How do you do?
You don't recognize me, I suppose.
No, I don't. No, yes, to be sure, Christine, is that really you?
Yes, it is I.
Christine, I think of me not recognizing you, and yet how could I? How you've altered, Christine.
Yes, I have in 9-10 long years.
Is it so long since we met? I suppose it is. The last 8 years have been a very happy time for me, I can tell you. And so now you've come into town and have taken a long journey in winter. That was plucky of you.
I arrived by steamer this morning.
Have some fun at Christmas time, of course. We shall have such fun together. But take off your things. You're not cold, I hope. Now we'll sit by the stove and be cozy. Now you look like your old self again. It was only the first moment. You're a little paler, Christine, and perhaps a little thinner.
And much, much older, Nora.
Perhaps a little older, certainly not much. Oh, what a thoughtless creature I am, chattering away like this. My poor dear Christine, do forgive me.
What is it, Nora?
Christine, you're a widow.
Yes, it is 3 years ago now.
Yes, I knew. I saw it in the papers. I assure you, Christine, I meant ever so often to write to you, but I always put it off and something always prevented me.
I quite understand, dear.
It was very bad of me, Christine. Poor thing, how you must have suffered. And he left you nothing?
Not even any sorrow or grief to live upon.
But, Christine, is that possible?
It sometimes happens, Nora.
So you're quite alone. How dreadfully sad that must be. I have 3 lovely children, but you can't see them just now, for they're with their nurse. Now you must tell me all about it.
No, I want to hear about you.
No, you must begin. I mustn't be selfish today. I must only think of your affairs. But there is one thing I must tell you. Do you know we've just had a great piece of good luck?
No, what is it?
Just fancy, my husband has been made manager of the bank.
Your husband! What good luck!
Yes, tremendous. A barrister's profession is such an uncertain thing, especially if you won't undertake unsavory cases. And naturally, Torvald has never been willing to do that, and I quite agree with him. You may imagine how pleased we are. He's to take up his work at the bank at the new year, and then he'll have a big salary and lots of commissions. It will be splendid to have heaps and heaps of money and not worry about any anxiety, won't it?
Nora, haven't you learned sense yet? In our school days, you were a great spendthrift.
Yes, that's what Torvald says now, but Nora is not so silly as you think. We've not been in a position for me to waste money. We've both had to work.
You too?
Yes. Odds and ends, needlework, crochet work, embroidery, that sort of thing. And other things as well. You know Torvald left his office when we were married. There was no prospect of promotion there, and he had to try and earn more money than ever before, but during the first year, he overworked himself dreadfully. You see, he had to make money every way he could, and he worked early and late, but he couldn't stand it and fell dreadfully ill. The doctors said it was necessary for him to go south.
Oh, I see. You went to Italy for an entire year, didn't you?
Yes, it was no easy matter to get away, I can tell you. It was just after Ivar was born, but naturally we had to go. It was a wonderfully beautiful journey, and it saved Torvald's life. But it cost a tremendous amount of money, Christine.
So I should think.
It costs about £250. That's a lot, isn't it?
Yes, and in emergencies like that, it is lucky to have the money.
I ought to tell you we had it from Papa.
I see. It was about that time that he died, wasn't it?
Yes. And just think of it, I couldn't go and nurse him. I was expecting little Ivar's birth every day, and I had my poor sick Torvald to look after. My dear kind father, I never saw him again. That was the saddest time I've known since our marriage.
And your husband, he came back quite well?
Torvald has not had an hour's illness since then, and our children are strong and healthy, and so am I. Christine, it's so good to be alive and happy, but how horrid of me. I'm talking only of my own affairs. You mustn't be angry with me, Christine. Tell me, is it really true you did not love your husband? Why did you marry him?
Well, my mother was alive and was bedridden and helpless, and I had to provide for my two younger brothers, so I did not believe I was justified in denying his offer.
No, perhaps you're quite right. He was rich at the time then?
I believe he was quite well off, but his business was a precarious one, and when he died, it all fell apart and there was nothing left.
And then?
Well, I had to turn my hand to anything I could find. First a small shop, then a small school, and so on. The last 3 years have felt like one long working day with no rest, but now it is at an end, Nora. My poor mother doesn't need me anymore, for she is gone, and the boys have found positions and can shift for themselves.
So what a relief you must feel if...
No, indeed, I only find my life unspeakably empty. I have no one to live for anymore. That was why I could not bear living in my little backwater no more. I was hoping it would be easier to find some work here to keep me busy, if I would have the luck to find some regular office work of some kind.
But Christine, that's frightfully tiring. You look tired out just now. You'd far better go away to some watering place.
I have no father to give me money for a journey, Nora.
Don't be angry with me.
It is you that must not be angry with me, dear. The worst of a position like mine is that it makes one so dreadfully bitter. When you told me what happy turn your fortunes had taken, you will not believe it, I was delighted not so much on your account, but as my own.
How do you... Oh, I understand. You mean that perhaps Torvald could get you something to do.
Yes, that was what I was thinking of.
You must, Christine. Just leave it to me. I will broach this subject very cleverly. I'll think of something that will please him very much. It will make me so happy to be of some use to you.
How kind you are, Nora, to be so eager to help me, and how doubly kind of you since you know so little about the burdens and troubles of life.
I know so little of them.
My dear, small household chores and that type of thing. You are a child.
You are just like the others. They think I'm incapable of anything really serious. You look down upon me altogether, Christine, but you ought not to. You are proud, aren't you, of having worked so long and so hard for your mother?
I suppose.
I too have something to be proud and glad of.
But what is it?
It was I who saved Torvald's life.
Saved? How?
Papa didn't give us a shilling. It was I who procured the money.
Then where did you get it from then? You couldn't have borrowed it.
Couldn't I? Why not?
No, a wife cannot borrow without her husband's consent.
You never said I had borrowed the money. I might have got it some other way. Perhaps I got it from some other admirer when anyone as attractive as I am.
No, you are a mad creature. It seems to me imprudent without Torvald's knowledge to...
But it was absolutely necessary. He should not know. My goodness, can't you understand that? It was impossible. He should have no idea in what a dangerous condition he was in. It was to me the doctors came and said his life was in danger, and the only way to save him was to go to the south. Very well, I thought, you must be saved, and that was how I came to devise a way out of the difficulty.
And since then you have never told your husband your secret?
Good heavens, no! How can you think so? It would be so painful and humiliating for Torvald with his manly independence to know that he owed me anything. I've had to save a little here and a little there where I could, you understand. I've not been able to put much aside from my housekeeping, for Torvald must have a good table. I couldn't let my children be shabbily dressed. I had to use all he gave me for them, sweet little darlings. Last winter, I found other ways of earning money. I was given some copying to do, and so I locked myself up and sat writing until quite late at night. Many a night I was desperately tired, but all the same, it was tremendous pleasure to sit there working and earning money. It was just like being a man.
Excuse me, ma'am. There's a gentleman to see the master, and as the doctor is with him.
Who is it?
It is I, Mrs. Helmer.
You? What is it? What do you want to see my husband about?
Bank business, in a way. I have a small position in the bank, and I hear your husband is to be our chief now.
Then it is...
Nothing but dry business matters, Mrs. Helmer. Absolutely nothing else.
Be so good as to go into the study, then.
Nora, who was that man?
A lawyer by the name of Krogstad.
Then it really was he.
Do you know the man?
I did, many years ago. He was a solicitor's clerk at our town.
Yes, he was.
He is greatly altered.
He made a very unhappy marriage.
And he is a widower now, isn't he?
With several children.
No, my dear fellow, I won't disturb you. I would rather go into your wife for a little while. Oh, I beg your pardon. I am afraid I am disturbing you too.
No, not at all. Dr. Rank, Mrs. Linde.
I have often heard Mrs. Linde's name mentioned here. I think I passed you on the stairs when I arrived, Mrs. Linde?
Yes, I can't manage stairs well. I go up very slowly.
Ah, some slight internal weakness?
No, the fact is I have been overworking myself.
Nothing more than that. Then I suppose you have come to town to amuse yourself with our entertainments?
No, I have come to look for work.
Is that a good cure for overwork?
One must live, Dr. Rank.
Yes, the general opinion seems to be that is necessary.
Look here, Dr. Rank, you know you want to live.
Certainly. However wretched I may feel, I want to prolong the agony as long as possible. All my patients are like that. And so are those who are morally diseased. One of them, and a bad case too, is at this very moment with Helmer.
Ah,
Whom do you mean?
A lawyer of the name of Krogstad, a fellow you don't know at all. He suffers from a diseased moral character, Mrs. Helmer, but even he began talking of its being highly important that he should live.
still, I think the sick are the ones that need the most taking care of.
Yes, there you are. That is a sentiment that is turning society into a sick house.
What do I care about tiresome society? I am tremendously happy. There's just one thing in the world that I should dearly love to do.
Well, what is that?
It's something I should dearly love to say if only Torvald could hear me.
Well, why can't you say it?
Darren, it's too shocking.
Shocking.
Well, I should not advise you to say it. Still, with us you might. What is it you would so much like to say if Torvald could hear you?
I should just love to say, well, I'm damned.
Are you mad?
Nora, dear!
Say it, here he is.
Hush. Well, Torvald, have you gotten rid of him?
Yes, he's gone.
This is Mrs. Linde.
Oh, Mrs. Linde, excuse me, I don't know you.
Christine, dear. Christine Linde.
Oh, of course, a school friend of my wife's, I presume.
Yes, we have known each other since then.
And just think she's taken a long journey in order to come see you.
Oh, what do you mean?
No, really,
Christine is tremendously clever at bookkeeping, and she's frightfully anxious to work under some clever man so as to perfect herself.
Ah, very sensible, Miss Linde.
And when she heard you had been appointed manager of the bank, the news was telegraphed, you know. She traveled here as quick as she could. Torvald, I'm sure you'd be able to do something for Christine for my sake, won't you?
Well, it's very likely I may be able to find something for you.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you?
You've just come at a fortunate moment, Miss Linde.
how am I to thank you?
There is no need, but today you must excuse me.
Wait a minute. I will come with you.
Are you going to, Christine?
Yes, I must go and look for a room.
Oh, well then, we can walk down the street together.
It's a pity we're so short of space here. I'm afraid it's impossible for us.
Please don't think of it. Goodbye, Nora dear, and many thanks. Excuse me, Mrs. Helmer.
What do you want?
Excuse me, the outer door was ajar. I suppose somebody forgot to shut it.
My husband is out, Mr. Krogstad.
I know that.
What do you want here, then?
A word with you.
Today? It's not the first of the month yet.
No, it is Christmas Eve, and it will depend on yourself what sort of Christmas you will spend. I was in Olson's restaurant, and I saw your husband going down the street with a lady.
What then?
May I make so bold as to ask if that was a Mrs. Linde?
It was.
I knew her too once upon a time.
I am aware of that.
Are you? So you know all about it. I thought as much. So I can ask you without beating about the bush. Is Mrs. Linde to have an appointment at the bank?
What right have you to question me, Mr. Krogstad? You one of my husband's subordinates, but since you ask, you shall know. Yes, Mrs. Linde is to have an appointment at the bank. And it was I who pleaded her case, Mr. Krogstad. Let me tell you that.
Mrs. Helmer, you will be so good as to use your influence on my behalf.
What do you mean?
You will be so kind to see that I'm allowed to keep my subordinate position in the bank.
But, Mr. Krogstad, I have no influence.
Haven't you? I thought you said yourself just now.
Naturally, I did not mean to put such construction on it. What should make you think I have influence of any kind with my husband?
Oh, I have known your husband from our student days. I don't suppose he's any more unassailable than other husbands.
If you speak slightingly of my husband, I will turn you out of this house.
You are bold, Mrs. Helmer.
I'm not afraid of you any longer. As soon as the new year comes, I shall in a very short time be free of the whole thing.
Listen to me, Mrs. Helmer. If necessary, I'm prepared to fight for my small post in the bank as if I were fighting for my life. Many years ago, I was guilty of an indiscretion. My sons are growing up. For their sake, I must try and win back as much respect as I can in town. This post in the bank was like the first step up for me, and now your husband is going to kick me downstairs again into the mud.
But you must believe me, Mr. Krogstad. It's not in my power to help you at all.
Then it is because you haven't the will, but I have means to compel you.
You don't mean to tell my husband that I owe you money.
Suppose I were to tell him.
It would be perfectly infamous of you to think of his learning my secret. It's been my pride and joy in such an ugly, clumsy way. That he should hear it from you, and it would put me in a horribly disagreeable position.
Only disagreeable?
Well, do it then. It will be the worse for you. My husband will see what a blackguard you are, and you certainly won't keep your post then.
I asked you if it's only disagreeable at scene at home you're afraid of. Either you have a very bad memory, or you know very little of business. I shall be obliged to remind you of a few details.
What do you mean?
When your husband was ill, you came to me to borrow £250. I promised to get you that amount on certain conditions. Your mind was so taken up with your husband's illness, and you were so anxious to get the money for your journey, you seem to have paid no attention to the conditions of our bargain. Therefore, it will not be amiss if I remind you of them. Now, I promised to get the money on the security of a bond which I drew up.
Yes, and which I signed.
Good. But below your signature there are a few lines constituting your father a surety of the money. Those lines your father should have signed.
Should? He did sign them.
Tell me, Mrs. Helmer, can you by any chance remember what day your father died? On what day of the month, I mean?
Papa died on the 29th of September.
That is correct. I have ascertained it for myself. And as that is so, there is a discrepancy which I cannot account for.
What discrepancy? I don't know of.
The discrepancy consists, Miss Helmer, in the fact that your father signed this bond 3 days after his death.
What do you mean? I don't understand.
Your father died on the 29th of September. But look here, your father has dated his signature the 2nd of October. It is a discrepancy, isn't it? Can you explain it to me? It all depends on the signature of the name, and that is genuine, I suppose, Miss Helmer? It was your father himself who signed his name here?
No, it was not. It was I who wrote Papa's name.
Mrs. Helmer, you evidently do not clearly realize what you have been guilty of, but I can assure you my one false step which lost me all my reputation was nothing more or nothing worse than what you have done.
You? Do you ask me to believe that you were brave enough to run the risk to save your wife's life?
The law cares nothing about motives.
And it must be a very foolish law.
Foolish or not, it will be by the law which you will be judged if I produce this paper in court.
I don't believe it. Is a wife not allowed to save her husband's life? There must be laws that permit some such things as that. You must be a very poor lawyer, Mr. Krogstad.
Maybe, but let me tell you this. If I lose my position the second time, you will lose yours with me.
Candle here and flowers there. Horrible man. It's all nonsense. There's nothing wrong. The tree shall be splendid. I shall think of everything I can do to please you, Torvald. I will sing for you. I will dance for you. Oh, are you back already?
Yes, has anyone been here?
Here? No.
That's strange. I saw Krogstad going out the gate.
Did you? Oh, yes, I forgot Krogstad was here for a moment.
Nora, I can see from your manner that he's been here begging you to say a good word for him.
Yes.
And you were to appear to do it of your own accord. You were to conceal from me the fact of him being here. Didn't he beg you of that too?
Yes, Torvald, but I was...
Nora, would you be a party to such thing? To have any talk with a man like that, to give him any sort of promise, and to tell me a lie into the bargain?
A lie?
Didn't you tell me no one had been here? My little songbird must never do that again. A songbird must have a clean beak to chirp with. No false notes. That is so, isn't it? Yes, I'm sure it is. Well, we'll say no more about it. How warm and snug it is in here.
How pretty the red flowers look. But tell me, was it something really bad that this Krogstad was guilty of?
Yes, he forged someone's name. Do you have any idea what that means?
Is it possible he was driven to do it by necessity?
Yes, or, as in many cases, by imprudence. I'm not so heartless as to condemn a man altogether because of a single false step of that kind.
Oh, you wouldn't, would you, Torvald?
Many a man has been able to retrieve his character if he has openly confessed to his fault and taken his punishment.
Punishment?
But Krogstad did nothing of that sort. He got himself out of it by a cunning trick, and that is why he's gone under altogether.
But do you think it would be...
Just think of how a guilty man like that has to lie and play hypocrite with everyone. How he has to wear a mask in the presence of those near and dear to him. Even in front of his own wife and children. And about the children, that is the most terrible part of it all, Nora.
How?
Because such an atmosphere of lies infects and poisons a whole life of a home. Each breath the children take in such a house is full of germs and evil. That is why my sweet little Nora must promise to me not to plead his cause. I assure you it would be quite impossible for me to work with him. I literally feel physically ill when I am in the company of such people. Well, but I must try and read through some of these before dinner, my precious little songbird.
No, it's not true. It's impossible. It must be impossible.
The little ones are begging so hard to be allowed to come into Mama.
Don't let them come in. You stay with them.
Very well, ma'am.
Deprave of my little children? Poison my home? It's not true. It can't possibly be true. Someone's coming now. No, it's no one. Of course, no one will come today. Christmas Day. Or tomorrow either. But perhaps... No. Nothing in the letterbox. It's quite empty. What rubbish. Of course he can't be in earnest about it. Such a thing couldn't happen. It's impossible. I have 3 little children.
At last I found a box with fancy dress,
Thanks. Put it on the table.
but it is very much in want of mending.
Let's tear into 100,000 pieces.
What? It can easily be put in order. Just a little patience.
Yes, I will go get Mrs. Linde to help me with it.
What? Out again? In this horrible weather? You'll catch cold, ma'am, and make yourself ill.
Well, worse than that might happen. How are the children?
Oh, the poor little souls are playing with their Christmas presents.
Do they ask much for me?
You see, they're so accustomed to have their mama with them.
Yes, but nurse, I shall not be able to be with them now so much as I was before.
Well, young children easily get accustomed to anything.
Do you think so? Do you think they would forget their mother if she went away altogether?
Good heavens! Went away altogether?
Nurse, I want you to tell me something I have often wondered about. How did you have the heart to put your own child out among strangers?
I was obliged to, if I wanted to be little Nora's nurse.
Yes, but how could you be willing to do it?
What? When I was going to get such a good thing by it? A poor girl who's got into trouble should be glad to. Besides, this wicked man didn't do a single thing for me.
But I suppose your daughter's quite forgotten you.
No, indeed she hasn't. She wrote to me when she was confirmed, and when she was married too.
Dear old Anne, you were a good mother to me when I was little.
Little Nora, poor dear, had no other mother but me.
And I'm sure if my little ones had no other mother, you would... What nonsense I'm talking. Go into them. Now I must... You'll see tomorrow how charming I shall look.
Oh, I'm sure there will be no one at the ball so charming as you, ma'am.
If only I dared go out. If only no one would come. If only I could be sure nothing could happen in the meantime. Stuff and nonsense. No one will come, only I mustn't think about it. I will brush my muff. What lovely gloves. What lovely, lovely gloves.
Nora,
Oh, Christine, it's you. There's no one else out there, is there? How good of you to come.
I heard you were asking for me.
Yes, as a matter of fact, it's something you could help me with. Let's sit down here at the sofa. Look here, tomorrow evening there's to be a fancy dress ball at the Sternbergs who live above us. Torvald wants me to go as a Neapolitan fisher girl and dance the tarantella that I learned at Capri.
I see. You're going to keep up the character.
Yes, Torvald wants me to. Look, here's the dress. Torvald had it made for me there, but now it's all torn and I haven't any idea how to
You
fix
can
it.
easily put that right, but I have completely forgotten to thank you for a wonderful evening last night. But tell me, is Dr. Rank always as depressed as he was yesterday?
No, yesterday was very noticeable. I must tell you he suffers from a very dangerous disease. He has consumption of the spine, poor creature. His father was a horrible man who committed all sorts of excesses, and that's why his son was sickly from childhood. Do you understand?
But, my dearest Nora, how could you know anything about such things?
When you have 3 children, you get visits now and then from married women who know something of medical matters. They talk about one thing and another.
Does Dr. Rank come here every day?
Every day regularly. He is Torvald's most intimate friend, and a great friend of mine too. He's just like one of the family. When you pay off a debt, you get your bond back, don't you?
Yes, as a matter of course.
You can tear it up into 100,000 pieces and burn it up, the dirty, nasty paper.
Nora, you are concealing something from me.
Christine, there's Torvald coming home. Would you mind going into the children for the present? Torvald can't Care to see dressmaking going on?
Certainly, but I am not leaving here until we have had it out with one another.
I've wanted you so much, Torvald dear.
Was that the dressmaker?
No, it's Christine. She's helping me put my dress in order. You'll see tomorrow I'll look quite smart.
Wasn't that a happy thought of mine now?
Splendid, but don't you think it's nice of me, too, to do as you wish?
Nice? Because you do as your husband wishes? Well, you little rogue. I'm sure you did not mean it in that way. I'm not going to disturb you, though. You'll be wanting to try on your new dress, I suppose.
Torvald, if your little squirrel were to ask you for something very, very prettily,
what then?
Would you do it?
Well, I should like to hear what it is first.
Your squirrel would run about and do all her tricks if you would be nice and do what she wants.
Nora, you surely don't mean that request you made to me this morning?
Yes, Torvald, I beg you so earnestly to...
My dear Nora, it is his post that I have arranged Miss Linde shall have, and there is one thing that makes it quite impossible for me to have Krogstad in the bank as long as I'm manager.
Whatever is that?
Well, his moral failings I may have perhaps overlooked if necessary, and I hear he's a good worker too. But I knew him when we were boys, and it was one of those rash friendships that often prove so incubus in afterlife. I may as well tell you plainly. We were once on very intimate terms with one another, but this tactless fellow lays no restraint on himself when other people are present. On the contrary, he thinks it gives him a right to adopt a familiar tone with me. Every minute it is, I say, Helmer, old fellow, and that sort of thing. I assure you, it is extremely painful for me. It would make my position in the bank intolerable.
Torvald, I don't believe you mean that.
Don't you? Why not?
Because it's such a narrow-minded way of looking at things.
What are you saying? Narrow-minded? Do you think I'm narrow-minded? Helen?
What are you going to do?
Settle it. Look here. Take this letter and go downstairs with it at once. Find a messenger and tell him to deliver it. Be quick. The address is on it, and here's the money.
Very well, sir.
Well. Little Miss Obstinate.
Torvald, what was that letter?
Krogstad's dismissal.
Call her back, Torvald. There's still time. Torvald, call her back. Do it for my sake, for your own sake. For the...
Nora.
Do you hear me,
Nora.
Torvald? Call her back.
It's too late. It's too late.
Yes, it's too late.
My dear Nora, I can forgive the anxiety that you're in, although it really is an insult to me. It is indeed. Isn't it an insult to think that I should be afraid of a starving quill driver's vengeance? But I forgive you nevertheless, because it's such eloquent witness of your love for me. My darling Nora, come what will, you may be sure that I have both strength and courage if they be needed. You will see that I am man enough to take everything upon myself.
What do you mean by that?
Everything, I say.
You will never have to do that.
That's right. Well, we'll share it, Nora, as man and wife should. That's how it should be. Are you content now? There. Not those frightened dove eyes. The whole thing is only the wildest fancy. Now you must go play through the tarantella and practice your tambourine. I shall go into the inner office and shut the door, and I shall hear nothing. You can make as much noise as you please. Oh, and when Rank comes, tell him where he can find me.
He was capable of doing it. He will do it. He will do it in spite of... No, anything but that. Anything rather than that. For some help. Some way out. Good day, Dr. Rank. I knew your knock, but you mustn't go into Torvald now. I think he's busy with something.
And you?
You know very well I always have time for you.
Thank you. I shall make use of as much of it as I can.
What do you mean by that? As much of it as you can?
Well, does that alarm you?
It's just such a strange way of putting it. Is anything likely to happen?
Nothing but what I have long been prepared for. But I certainly didn't expect it to happen so soon.
What have you found out, Dr. Rank? You must tell me.
It is all up with me. and it can't be helped.
It is about yourself?
Who else? It is no use lying to oneself. I am the most wretched of all my patients, Mrs. Helmer. Lately, I have been taking stock of my internal economy. Bankrupt. Probably within a month I shall lie rotting in the churchyard.
What an ugly thing to say.
The thing itself is cursedly ugly, and the worst of it is that I shall have to face so much more that is ugly before that. I shall only make one more examination of myself. When I have done that, I shall know pretty certainly when it will be that the horrors of dissolution will begin. There is something I want to tell you. Helmer's refined nature gives him an unconquerable disgust at everything that is ugly. I won't have him in my sick room.
But Dr. Rank,
I won't have him there. Not on any account. I bar my door to him. As soon as I am certain that the worst has come, I shall send you my card with a black cross on it, and then you will know that the loathsome end has begun.
You really are quite absurd today. I wanted you so much to be in a really good humor.
With death stalking beside me? To have to pay this penalty for another man's sin? Is there any justice in that? And in every single family in one way or another, some such inexorable retribution is being exacted.
Rubbish! Rubbish! Do talk of something cheerful.
Oh, it's a mere laughing matter, the whole thing. My poor, innocent spine has to suffer for my father's youthful amusements.
I suppose you mean he was too partial to asparagus and pâté de foie gras, don't you?
Yes. And truffles.
Oh, truffles too, and oysters too, I suppose.
Oysters, of course, that goes without saying.
And heaps of port and champagne. It is sad that these nice things should take their revenge on our bones.
Especially that they should revenge themselves on the unlucky bones of those who have not had the satisfaction of enjoying them.
That's the saddest part of it all. Why did you smile?
No, it was you that laughed.
No, it was you that smiled, Dr. Rank.
You are a greater rascal than I thought.
I am in a silly mood today.
So it seems.
Dear Dr. Rank, death mustn't take you away from Torvald and me.
People form new ties.
Who will form new ties?
Both you and Helmer when I am gone. You yourself are already on the high road to it, I think. What did that Mrs. Linde want here last night?
Oh, you don't mean to say you are jealous of poor Christine?
Yes, I am. She will be my successor in this house. When I'm done for, this woman will take...
Don't speak so loud. She's in that room.
Today, again. There, you see?
She's only come to sew my new dress for me. Bless my soul, how unreasonable you are. Be nice now, Dr. Rank. And tomorrow you'll see how beautifully I shall dance. You can imagine I'm doing it all for you. And for Torvald, too, of course. Dr. Rank, come here. I want to show you something.
What is it?
Just look at those.
Silk stockings.
Flesh-colored. Aren't they lovely? It's so dark in here, but tomorrow... No, you must only look at the feet. Oh, well, you may have leave to look at the legs, too. Why are you looking so critical? Don't you think they'll fit me?
I have no means of forming an opinion about that.
For shame! That's to punish you.
What other nice things am I to be allowed to see?
Not a single thing more for being so naughty.
When I am sitting here, talking to you as intimately as this, I cannot imagine for a moment what would have become of me if I had never come into this house.
I do believe you feel thoroughly at home with us.
And to be obliged to leave it all.
Nonsense! You're not going to leave it? Dr. Rank, more than anyone else, I know you are my truest and best friend. Dr. Rank, there's something you must help me prevent. You know how devotedly, how inexpressibly deeply Torvald loves me. He would not hesitate for a moment. His life for me.
Nora, do you think he is the only one?
The only one?
The only one who would gladly give his life for your sake?
Is that it?
I was determined you should know it before I went away, and there will never be a better opportunity than this. Now you know it, Nora, and now you know too that you can trust me as you would trust no one else.
Pass.
Nora!
Dear Dr. Rank, that was really horrid of you.
To have loved you as much as anyone else does, was that horrid?
Know what to go and tell me so. There was really no need.
If you please, ma'am.
Oh.
Is there anything wrong?
No, it's nothing. It's something. It's my new dress.
What? Your dress is lying there.
Oh, yes, that one, but this is another one. I ordered it. Torvald mustn't know anything about it.
Oh, then that was the great secret.
Of course, just go into him. He's sitting in the inner room. Keep him as long as...
Keep your mind easy. I won't let him escape.
Speak low. My husband is at home.
You know, I suppose, that I've got my dismissal.
I couldn't prevent it, Mr. Krogstad. I fought as hard as I could on your side, but it was no good.
Does your husband love you still then? He knows what I could expose you to, and yet he ventures.
How do you suppose he has any knowledge of the sort?
I didn't suppose so at all, but it would not be the least like our dear Torvald Helmer to show so much courage.
Mr. Krogstad, a little respect for my husband, please.
Certainly, all the respect he deserves. But since you kept the matter so carefully to yourself, I make bold to suppose I have a little clearer idea than you had yesterday of what it is you have actually done.
More than you could ever teach me.
Yes, such a bad lore as am I.
What is it you want of me?
Only to see how you were, Mrs. Helmer. I have been thinking about you all day long. A mere cashier, a quill driver, a man like me. Even he has a little of what is called feeling, you know.
Show it then. Think of my little children.
Have you and your husband thought of mind? But never mind about that. I only want to tell you need not take the matter too seriously. In the first place, there will be no accusation made on my part. The whole thing can be arranged amicably. There is no reason why anybody should know anything about it. It will remain a secret between us three. So if the thought of it has driven you to any desperate resolution?
It has.
If you had it in your mind to run away from your home?
I had.
Or something even worse?
How did you know that?
Give up the idea.
How did you know I had thought of that?
Most of us think of that at first. I did too, but I hadn't the courage.
No more had I.
No, that's it, isn't it? You hadn't the courage either?
No, I haven't. I haven't.
Besides, it would have been a great piece of folly. Once the first storm at home was over, I have a letter for your husband in my pocket.
Telling him everything?
In as lenient manner as I possibly could.
You mustn't get that letter. Tear it up. I will find some means of getting money.
I'm not asking your husband for a penny.
What do you want then?
I will tell you. I want to rehabilitate myself, Mrs. Helmer. I want to get on, and that your husband must help me. For the past year and a half, I have not had a hint in anything dishonorable. Amid all the time, I have been struggling in the most restricted circumstances. I was content to work my way up step by step. Now I'm turned out, and I'm not going to be merely satisfied with being taken into favor again. I want to get on, I tell you. I want to get into the bank again, in a higher position. Your husband must make a place for me.
He will never do.
He will. I know him. He daren't protest. And as soon as I am in there again with him, then you will see. Within a year, I shall be the manager's right hand. It will be Nils Krogstad and not Torvald Helmer who manages the bank.
That's a thing you will never see.
Do you mean that you will?
I have enough courage for it now.
Oh, you can't frighten me, a fine, spoilt lady like you.
You will see. You will see.
Under the ice, perhaps, down to the cold, cold black water, and then in spring to float up to the surface, all horrible and unrecognizable, with your hair fallen out.
You can't frighten me.
Nor you me. People don't do such things, Miss Helmer. Besides, what use would it be? I should have completely in my power all the same.
Afterwards, when I'm no longer...
Have you forgotten that it's I who am keeping up your reputation? Well, now I've warned you. Do not do anything foolish. And when Helmer has had my letter, I shall expect a message back from him. And be sure to remember that as your husband himself has forced me into such ways as this again, I will never forgive him for that. Goodbye, Mrs. Helmer. There, I can't see any more to mend now. Would you like to try it on?
Christine, come here.
What is the matter with you? You look so agitated.
Come here. Do you see that letter? You can see it through the glass in the letterbox.
Yes, I see it.
The letter is from Krogstad.
Nora, it was Krogstad who lent you the money.
Yes, and now Torvald will know all about it.
Believe me, Nora, that is the best thing for the both of you.
You don't know all. I forged a name.
Good heavens.
I only want to say this to you, Christine. You must be my witness.
Your witness? What do you mean? What am I to do?
If I should go out of my mind, and it might easily happen,
Nora!
or if anything else should prevent me from being here, for instance...
Nora, you are quite out of your mind. I will go at once and see Krogstad.
No, don't go to him. He'll do you some harm.
There was once a time where he would gladly do anything for my sake.
But it was just at this time that Torvald generally checks his letterbox and...
You must delay him. Go into him in the meantime, and I will come back as soon as I can.
Torvald?
Well, may I venture at last to come into my own room again? Come along, Rank, now you'll see. But what is this?
What is what, dear?
Well, Rank led me to expect some splendid transformation.
I understood so, but evidently I was mistaken.
Yes, nobody is to have the chance of admiring me in my dress until tomorrow. Help me, Torvald. Promise that you will. I'm so nervous about it. Oh, people, you must give yourself up entirely to me this evening. Not the tiniest bit of business. You mustn't even take a pen in your hand. Will you promise, Torvald, dear?
I promise. This evening will be wholly and absolutely at your service, you helpless little mortal. Ah, by the way,
You must coach me up until the last minute, Torvald. You mustn't think of anything but me, either today or tomorrow. You mustn't open a single letter, not even open the letterbox.
Ah, you're still afraid of that fellow.
You mustn't contradict her.
The child shall have her way, but tomorrow night, after you've danced,
Then you will be free.
Dinner is served, ma'am.
hello, are we going to have a banquet?
Yes, a champagne banquet until the small hours, and a few macaroons, Helen. Lots. Just for once.
I suppose there is nothing. She is not expecting anything.
Far from it, my dear fellow. It's simply nothing more than a childish nervousness I was telling you of.
5 o'clock. 7 hours until midnight. 4 and 20 hours till the next midnight. And the tarantella will be over.
Where's my little skylark?
Here she is!
I found a note from you at home. What does this mean? It is absolutely necessary that I should have a talk with you. Really? And is it absolutely necessary that it should be here? There are no private entrances to my room, so it's impossible where I live. But come in, we are quite alone. The maid is asleep and the Helmers are at the dance upstairs. Are the Helmers really at a dance tonight? Yes, why not? Certainly, why not? Now, Nils, let us have a talk. Can we two have anything to talk about? We have a great deal to talk about. I shouldn't have thought so. No, you have never properly understood me. Was there anything else to understand except what was obvious to all the world? A heartless woman jilts a man when a more lucrative chance turns up? Do you believe that I am as absolutely as heartless as all that? And do you believe that I did it with a light heart? Didn't you? Nils, did you really think that? If it were as you say, why did you write to me as you did at the time? I could do nothing else. As I had to break with you, it was my duty to end all that you felt for me. So that was it, and all this, only for the sake of money. You must not forget that I had a helpless mother and 2 little brothers. We couldn't wait for you, Nils. Your prospects seemed hopeless then.
That may be so, but you had no right to throw me over for anyone else's sake.
Indeed, I don't know. Many a time did I ask myself whether I had the right to do so.
When I lost you, it was as if all solid ground went from under my feet. Look at me now. I'm a shipwrecked man clinging to a bit of wreckage.
Well, I am a shipwrecked woman clinging to a bit of wreckage. No one to mourn for, no one to care for.
It was your own choice.
It was the only choice. Then,
Well, what now?
Nils, how would it be if we two shipwrecked people joined forces?
What are you saying?
Two people on the same bit of wreckage would stand better a chance than each on their own.
Christine,
What do you suppose brought me to town?
Do you mean that you gave me a thought?
I could not endure life without work. All my life, as long as I can remember, I have worked, and it has been my greatest and my only pleasure. But now I am quite alone in the world. I feel so forsaken and so dreadfully empty. There is not the least bit of pleasure in working for oneself. Nils, please give me someone and something to work for.
Could you really do it? Tell me, do you know all about my past life?
Yes.
And do you know what they think of me here?
You seem to imply that with me you might have been quite another man.
I am certain of it.
Is it too late now?
Christine, are you saying this deliberately? Yes, I'm sure. I see it in your face. Have you really the courage, then?
I want to be a mother to someone, and your children need a mother. We need each other. Nils, I have faith in your real character. I can dare anything together with you.
Thanks, Christine. Now I shall find a way to clear myself in the eyes of the world. But I forgot. If only I could do what I've done.
You cannot. Your letter is lying in the letterbox now.
Are you sure of that?
Quite sure, but...
Is that what this all means? Is that you want to save your friend at any cost? Tell me frankly, is that it?
Nils, a woman who has once sold herself for another's sake doesn't do it a second time.
I will ask for my letter back.
No, Nils, you must not recall your letter.
But tell me, wasn't it for the very purpose that you asked me to meet you here?
In my first moment of fright, it was. But 24 hours have elapsed since then, and I have seen incredible things in this house. Helmer must know all about it. This unhappy secret must be disclosed, and they must have a complete understanding between them, which is impossible with all this concealment and falsehood going on. You must be quick and go. The dance is over, and we are not safe a moment longer.
I will wait for you below. I have never had such an amazing piece of good fortune in my life.
What a difference, what a difference. A home to bring comfort into, and someone to work and to live for. I can do that indeed. I just wish they would be quick and come.
No.
Oh, here they are now. I must be quick and put on my things.
Come on, Nora.
No, don't take me in. I don't want to go. I want to go upstairs. I don't want to leave so early.
Hear us, Nora.
Please, Torvald, please. Only an hour or more.
Not a single minute, my sweet Nora. That was our agreement. Come along into the room. You're catching a cold standing there. I feel extraordinarily lively. And you, well, you look both tired and sleepy.
Yes, I'm very tired. I want to go to sleep at once.
There, then I was quite right of me not to let you stay there any longer. Did you notice what good spirits Rank was in this evening?
Really? I didn't speak to him at all.
And I very little, but I've not a long time to see him in such good form. It's delightful to be at home by ourselves again. To be alone with you, you fascinating and charming little darling.
Don't look at me like that, Torvald.
Why shouldn't I look at my dearest treasure, all the beauty that is all mine, all my very own?
You mustn't say things like that to me tonight.
It is I. May I come in for a moment? I thought I heard your voice and felt as if I should like to look in. Ah, yes, these dear familiar rooms. You are very happy and cozy in here, you two.
Well, it seems like you looked after yourself pretty well upstairs, too.
Excellently. Why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't one enjoy everything in this world? At any rate, as much as one can, and as long as one can. The wine was capital.
Especially the champagne.
So you noticed that, too? It is almost incredible how much I managed to put away.
Torvald drank a great deal of champagne tonight, too.
Did he?
Yes, and he's always in such good spirits afterwards.
Well, why should one not enjoy a merry evening after a well-spent day?
Well spent. Well, I'm afraid I can't take credit for that.
But I can, you know.
Dr. Rank, you must have been occupied with some scientific investigation today.
Exactly.
Just listen. Little Nora is talking about scientific investigations.
May I congratulate you on the result?
Indeed you may.
Was it favorable then?
The best possible for both doctor and patient. Certainty.
Certainty?
Absolute certainty. So wasn't I entitled to make a merry evening of it after that?
Yes. Yes, you certainly were, Dr. Rank.
And I think so too, as long as you don't have to pay for it in the morning.
Oh well, one can't have anything in this life without paying for it.
Dr. Rank, are you fond of fancy dress balls?
Yes, if there's a fine lot of pretty costumes.
Tell me, what shall we two wear at the next?
Little featherbrain, are you thinking of the next already?
We two? Yes, I can tell you, you shall go as a good fairy.
Well, what do you suggest as an appropriate costume for that?
Let your wife go dressed just as she is in everyday life.
That was very prettily turned, but can't you tell us what you will be?
Yes, my dear friend, I have quite made up my mind about that.
Well?
At the next fancy dress ball, I shall be invisible.
That's a good joke.
There's a big black hat. Have you never heard of hats that make you invisible? If you put one on, no one can see you. And now, goodbye.
Goodbye, dear old man.
Sleep well, Dr. Rank.
Thank you for that wish.
Wish me the same.
You, well, if you want me to sleep well. And thanks.
Well, he drank more than he ought.
Maybe. Torvald, what are you going to do in there?
Emptying the letterbox. It is quite full. There will be no room for any newspaper tomorrow morning. Look at what a heap of them there are. What on earth is that? It's a card of ranks. It's a black cross over the name. Look here, what an uncomfortable idea. It's almost like as if you were announcing his own death.
That's just what he's doing.
What? Do you know anything about it? Has he said anything to you?
Yes, he told me that when the cards came, it would be his last leave taking from us. He means to shut himself up and die.
Oh, my poor friend. Certainly I knew we should not have very long with him, but so soon? So he hides himself away like a wounded animal?
If it has to happen, it's best that it should be without a word. Don't you think so, Torvald?
But he's so grown into our lives. I can't think of him being gone out of them. With his sufferings and his loneliness, he was like a cloudy background to our sunlit happiness, and, well, perhaps it's best so, for him anyway. Perhaps for us too, Nora. We two have been quite thrown upon each other now. My darling wife, I don't feel like I could hold you tight enough. Do you know, Nora, that I've often wished that you might be threatened by some great danger so that I'll risk my life's blood and everything for your sake?
No, you must read your letters, Torvald.
No, not tonight. I want to be with you, my darling wife.
The thought of your friend's death.
You're right. It has affected us both, and something ugly has come between us, but the thought of the horrors of death, we must try and rid our minds of that, and until then, we'll go to our own rooms.
Good night, Torvald.
Good night, my little singing bird. Sleep sound, Nora. I will read my letters through.
Never see him again. Never. Never see my children again. Never. Icy black water. Unfathomable depths. Goodbye, Torvald, and my children.
Nora! What is this? Do you know what's in this letter?
I know, let me go out!
Where are you going?
You shan't save me, Torvald.
True? Is this true, what I read here?
Yes, it's true. I love you above anything else in the world.
No tragic errors, please. Here you shall stay and give me an explanation. Do you know what you've done? Answer me. Do you know what you've done?
Yes, I'm beginning to understand thoroughly.
What a horrible awakening all these 8 years. She who was my joy and pride, a hypocrite, a liar, worse, a criminal. The unutterable ugliness of it all. For shame. I had to have suspected something of this sort would happen. I had to have foreseen it. All your father's wants of principle. Be silent. All your father's want of principle has come out in you. No religion, no morality, no sense of duty. How I am punished for having winked at what he did. I did it for your sake, and this is how you repay me?
Yes, that's just it.
Now you have destroyed all of my happiness. You've ruined my future. It's horrible to think that I am in the power of an unscrupulous man.
When I am out of the way, you'll be free.
No fine speeches, please. It's so incredible that I can't take it. Take off that shawl. Take it off, I tell you. I must try and appease him in one way or another. The matter must be hushed up at any cost. As for you and me, it must appear as if everything between us were just as it was before. But naturally, only in the eyes of the world. You will remain in my house, that's a matter of course, but I shall not allow you to bring up the children. I dare not trust them with you. To think, I shall be obliged to say that to the one whom I loved so dearly and whom I still... No, that's all over. From now on, happiness is not even in the question. All that concerns us is to save the remains and the fragments, the appearance. What is that? So late as this? Hide yourself, Nora. Say you're ill.
A letter for the mistress.
Give it to me. Yes, it's from him. You shall not have it. I will read it myself.
Yes, read it.
I scarcely have the courage to do it, but it may ruin things for the both of us. No, I must do it. Nora, no, I must read it once again. Yes, that's true, Nora. I'm saved, Nora.
And I?
Oh, you too, of course. We're both saved, both you and I. Look, he sends you your bond back. He says he regrets and repents that a happy change in his life is... Oh, never mind what he says. We're saved, Nora. No one could do anything to you. The whole thing is nothing but a bad dream to me. There. Now it doesn't exist any longer. He says since Christmas Eve These must have been 3 dreadful days for you, Nora.
I have fought a hard fight these past 3 days.
And suffered agonies and seen no way out, but... No, we won't call any of those horrors to mind. We'll only shout with joy and keep saying, it's all over, it's all over. Listen to me, Nora. You don't seem to realize that it's over. What is this? Such a cold, set face. My poor little Nora. Oh, I quite understand. You don't feel as if you could believe that I have forgiven you. It's true, Nora. I swear it. I've forgiven you. Everything. I know what you did, and you did it out of love for me.
That is true.
You must not think any more of the hard things I said in my first moment of consternation, when I thought everything was going to overwhelm me. I've forgiven you, Nora. I swear to you, I've forgiven you.
Thank you for your forgiveness.
Oh, don't go. What are you doing in there?
Taking off my fancy dress.
Yes, do. Try and calm yourself and make your mind easy again, my frightened little singing bird. Be at rest and feel secure. I have broad wings to shelter you under. Have no anxiety about anything, Nora. Only be frank and open with me, and I will service will and conscience both to you. What is this? Not gone to bed? Have you changed your things? What was that?
Yes, Torvald, I've changed my things now.
What for so late as this?
Sit down. It will take some time. I have a lot to talk over with you.
You alarm me, Nora. I don't understand you.
No, that's just it. You don't understand me. I've never understood you either before tonight. You mustn't interrupt me. You must simply listen to what I have to say, Torvald. This is a settling of accounts.
What do you mean by that?
Isn't there one thing that strikes you as strange in our sitting here like this?
What is it?
We have been married 8 years. Does it not occur to you that this is the first time you and I, husband and wife, have had any serious conversation?
What do you mean by serious?
In these 8 years, longer than that, from the very beginning of our acquaintance, we have never exchanged a word on any serious subject.
Well, was it likely that I would be continually and forever telling you about the worries that you cannot help me to bear?
I am not speaking of business matters. I simply say that we have never sat down together to get at the bottom of anything.
But dearest Nora, would it have been any good to you?
That's just it. You never understood me. I have been greatly wronged, Torvald. First by Papa and then by you.
What? But by us two, who have loved you more than anyone else in the world?
You have never loved me. You have only thought it pleasant to be in love with me.
Nora, what do I hear you saying?
It's perfectly true, Torvald. When I was at home with Papa, he told me his opinion about everything, and so I had the same opinions. And if I differed from him, I concealed the fact because he would not have liked it. He called me his doll child, and he played with me just as I used to play with my dolls. And when I came to live with you,
What sort of expression is that to use about our marriage?
I mean that I was simply transferred from Papa's hands into yours. You arranged everything according to your own taste, and so I got the same taste as you, or else I pretended to. I'm not really quite sure which. I think sometimes one and sometimes the other. When I think on it, it seems like I've been living here like a poor woman, just from hand to mouth. I've existed merely to perform tricks for you, Torvald. You would have it so. You and Papa have committed a great sin against me, and it's your fault. I made nothing of my life.
How unreasonable and how ungrateful you are, Nora. Have you not been happy here?
No, I've never been happy. I thought I was, but it has never really been so.
Not happy?
No. Only merry. And you've always been so kind to me. But our home has been nothing but a playroom. I have been your doll wife, just as at home I was Papa's doll child. Here the children have been my dolls. I thought it great fun when you played with me, just as they thought it great fun when I played with them. This is what our marriage has been, Torvald.
There's some truth to what you say, exaggerated and strained as your view of it is. But for the future it shall be different. Playtime it shall be over, and lesson time shall begin.
Whose lessons, mine or the children's?
Both yours and the children's, my darling Nora.
Torvald, you're not the man to educate me into being a proper wife for you.
And you can say that.
And how am I fitted to bring up the children?
Nora!
Didn't you say so yourself a little while ago, that you dare not trust me to bring them up?
In a moment of anger, why do you pay any heed to that?
Indeed, you're perfectly right. I'm not fit for the task. There's another task I must undertake first. I must try and educate myself. You're not the man to help me with that. I must do that for myself. That's why I'm going to leave you now.
What do you say?
I must stand quite alone if I am to understand the world and everything about me. It's for that reason I cannot remain with you any longer.
No, Nora.
I'm going away from here at once. I'm sure Christine will take me in for the night.
You're out of your mind. I won't allow it. I forbid you.
It's no use forbidding me anything any longer. I will take with me what belongs to myself. I will take nothing from you, either now or later.
It's so shocking how you would neglect your most sacred duties.
What do you consider my most sacred duties?
Do I need to tell you that? Are they not the duties to your husband and your children?
I have other duties just as sacred. Duties to myself.
This is unheard of in a girl your age. But if religion cannot lead you aright, let me try and awaken your conscience. I suppose you have some moral sense, or Answer me, and am I to think you have none?
I assure you, Torvald, it's not an easy question to answer. I really don't know. The thing perplexes me altogether. I only know that you and I look at it in quite a different light. I'm learning, too, that the law is quite another thing from what I supposed, but I find it impossible to convince myself that the law is right. According to it, a woman has no right to spare her old dying father or to save her husband's life. I can't believe that.
You talk like a child. You don't understand the conditions in the world in which you live.
No, I don't. But I'm going to try. I'm going to see if I can make out who's right, the world or I.
And it is with a clear mind and a certain mind that you forsake your husband and your children?
Yes, it is.
Well, and there's only one possible explanation.
What is that?
You don't love me anymore.
No, that's just it.
Nora, how could you say that?
It gives me great pain, Torvald, for you've always been so kind to me. But I cannot help it. I do not love you anymore.
Can you tell me what I have done to forfeit your love?
Yes, indeed I can. It was tonight, when the wonderful thing did not happen, when I saw you were not the man I thought you were. When Krogstad's letter was lying there, never for a moment did I think you would consent to accept that man's conditions. I was so absolutely certain that you would say to him, publish the thing to the whole world, and then when that was done, you...
Yes, what then? When I exposed my wife to shame and disgrace?
When that was done, I was so absolutely certain that you would come forward and take everything upon yourself and say, I am the guilty one.
Nora.
You mean that I would never have accepted such a sacrifice on your part? No, of course not. But what would my assurances have been worth against yours? That was the wonderful thing for which I hoped and prayed, and it was to prevent that I wanted to kill myself.
I would gladly work day and night for you, Nora, bear sorrow and want for your sake, but no man would sacrifice his honor for the one he loves.
It is a thing hundreds and thousands of women have done.
Oh, you think and talk like a heedless child.
Maybe, but you neither think nor talk like the man I could bind myself to. As soon as your fear was over, and it was not fear for what threatened me, but what might happen to you, when the whole thing was past, as far as you were concerned, it was exactly as if nothing at all had happened. Exactly as before. I was your little skylark, your doll, which you would in future treat with double care, because it was so brittle and so fragile. It dawned on me then, Torvald, that for 8 years I've been living here with a strange man, and have borne him three children. I can't think about that. I could tear myself up into little pieces.
I see, and an abyss has opened between us. There's no denying it, but Nora, would it not be possible to fill it up?
As I am now, I am no wife for you.
I have it in me to become a different man.
Perhaps if your doll was taken away from you.
But to part from you, no, Nora, I can't understand that idea.
That's what makes it all the more certain that it must be done.
But Nora, not now. Wait until tomorrow.
I cannot spend the night in a strange man's room.
Can't we live here like brother and sister?
You know very well that would not last long. You're not to feel yourself bound to me in any way, any more than I shall. There must be perfect freedom on both sides. See, here's your ring back. Give me mine.
That too?
That too.
Here it is.
That's right. Now it's all over.
All over. Nora, shall you never think of me again?
You know how often I shall think of you, the children, and this house.
Nora, may I write to you?
No, never. You must never do that.
But let me help you if you're in want.
I can receive nothing from a stranger.
Nora, can I ever be anything but a stranger to you?
Torvald, the most wonderful thing of all would have to happen. Both you and I would be so changed. Torvald, I don't believe in wonderful things happening anymore.
But I will believe in it. Tell me, so change the what?
That our life together would be real wedlock. Goodbye.
Nora! No. Empty, she's gone. The most wonderful thing of all.